Hello everybody, I am Fuzzyface and welcome back to another episode of this Ferrari challenge. We are currently once again first in the drivers' standings. Charles Leclerc 68 points, Mick Schumacher 61 points. Of course Charles Leclerc won the last race. That was because on the second lap, at the first corner of the second lap, Mick Schumacher hit Sebastian Vettel. Schumacher recovered from about 19th place to get into second place. This race possibly would have been his if it wasn't for the fact that he had that crash. Vettel meanwhile didn't manage to recover himself. He finished all the way down in last place and we lapped him 4 times. So I don't know if the Mercedes, like last season, having some real reliability problems with their car as well. But anyway, it worked out alright for us. Schumacher really needs to win to try and keep up with Charles Leclerc here, otherwise he's going to get a 2-race advantage. It is Charles Leclerc if he wins again. Barcelona coming up. It's going to be a fun dry race weekend, but we've got a few things to get into here. The HQ, we've got 2 parts to build, just so that we can say we've built all the base parts. So that's what we're going to build the staff centre, so then our 2 staff can sort of improve a little bit. As I've discussed in past episodes, to get better staff in, it's going to cost quite a bit more just to get them in. Adami's just over 4 stars, Greenwood's just over 4 stars as well. There's not many race mechanics that are actually better than them. There's a couple here, that's about it. There's 4 are actually rated better than them, but to bring them in, they have massive contracts and they all want massive bonuses as well, so it would be like £600,000 per race. So we're just going to concentrate on upgrading our staff ourselves. So we've got new staff centre being built, and we're also going to build a tour centre. Brings in an extra £50,000 per race. It's going to cost £1.5 million. So 30 races, once it's built, it would start paying for itself from that point on. Possibly not going to get to that point in this series, as I've said before. We're going to swap when the 2017 mod comes out to maybe another factory team a bit lower down, like Renault or McLaren, someone that we can work on. Haas do interest me as well, being a customer team. They're pulling parts from all over the place. They don't have a set factory or anything like that, so that would be quite interesting as well. But we'll just wait till the 2017 mod comes out to just see how everything's shaping up there. But other than that, we've got a get to mail here. We've got a vote coming up, so a new vote started. It is for the removal of Spa. We don't really want it removed, but as always, I do just go with abstain. I just like seeing what the computer goes for. There's quite a lot more for votes then on the pre-vote. It looks like a lot of people are abstaining, and 5 votes against coming in at the last second there, so 5, so we don't actually lose a race from next year's calendar. There is a couple of interesting votes coming up. We've got the points for the top 8 again. I'm sure that was a vote before, in that we're only going to vote for the top 8. That would be going back to the old point structure of 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The other votes are for a spec gearbox and spec rear wings. I don't know whether that would tighten the championship up. It would allow the lower teams to sort of catch up with the midfield. I don't think losing the gearbox or the rear wings would affect us too much, since we're so far ahead in the engine department, that it would possibly just put us further ahead, if you get what I'm saying. Because if everyone's sort of evened up, we'd still be that far ahead just because of how strong our engine is. And currently we are building another iteration of the engine. We're getting ready to build another one. The one that we've got at the moment is a 1545, the best one. Schumacher's is a 1512. The cars are sort of evened up. Schumacher has the best brakes, Leclerc has the best engine. No one has the best front wing, well, this new front wing yet, because that's about to go in, but Schumacher does have the best front wing at the moment. The best gearbox at the moment isn't ready to go in the car, but Schumacher has the best gearbox, and then Leclerc has the best rear wing and best suspension. So Barcelona is acceleration and low speed corners, so that should be, it should be a track that suits the car that Schumacher's in more, because he's got the best front wing and gearbox. So we'll see how that goes in qualifying and practice, see how they get on, and we'll be coming back in just a second for the grid for Barcelona to see how we do in this 2018 Circuit de Barcelona Grand Prix. So here we go with the grid for the 2018 Barcelona Grand Prix. As we thought, Mick Schumacher is a tiny bit quicker than Charles Leclerc around this track. Leclerc arguably does have the slightly better car, but as we saw, Schumacher does have the better gearbox, the better front wing, which more suits this Barcelona track. On the second row of the grid, we have Daniel Ricciardo once again beating out Vettel in the Silver Arrow, then Max Verstappen in the other Red Bull. Nico Hulkenberg on the third row of the grid. The Force India's beating out the Williams for once, and there on the fourth row of the grid we have both Williams of Rosberg and Bottas. Raikkonen in the Force India 9th, Alonso in 10th with the Renault, Hamilton back in 11th with the McLaren, Daniel Juncadella in the other Silver Arrow in 12th. Then we've got Palmer and Ericsson in the Toro Rosso and Renault respectively. Roman Grosjean in the Toro Rosso 15th, followed by Pascal Wehrlein in the Manor in 16th. Louis Delatras in the McLaren 17th. Jack Aitken up off the back row of the grid in 18th. John-Eric Verne in the other Manor forced to the back row of the grid today in 19th. And Norman Nato, as per usual, he must have the slightly worse of the two racing engineering cars, even though he was the GP2 champion last season, beating Jack Aitken quite comfortably. He's doing quite a bit worse, 2/10 of a second slower than what Jack Aitken is able to manage around this track. So the weather is quite high here. It's quite... For qualifying, the temperature was quite low, so I thought it might have been better to run the mediums at some point during the race. We might be able to get away with doing Schumacher's stint, could we, on all soft tyres for the race. Leclerc has 2 soft tyres left, so he's going to have to go soft, medium, soft. So we'll just see how that works out between these two drivers. Just hope we get a decent start, because Schumacher hasn't been having the best starts recently. There we go, both our Ferraris get away, but Charles Leclerc once again makes a better start, managed to get in front of Schumacher. The most important thing this time out is that we haven't been held up by any of the other cars. Schumacher last time did fall behind, I think, the Red Bull and the Mercedes, Vettel and Ricciardo. That hasn't happened this time, so we're not going to have Schumacher running into any problems as he did last time out. This Mercedes is going to stick pretty close to us, I would feel, because Vettel, as per usual, as the Mercedes tend to do, they run it in full overtake mode. They're running the full overtake mode from the start of the race. They burn a lot of fuel, and if we can stay ahead of them whilst they do that, they're going to have to turn their engine down to low mode at some point towards the end of the race, which will allow us to pull away pretty yeah, we'll just be able to pull away from them as we are doing now pretty much, are we? Are we getting away? Delatras has been given a drive-through penalty. I wonder if he's crashed with Jack Aitken. Yeah, Aitken and Delatras have hit each other here at the back of the grid. Here we go. We should start pulling away from this Mercedes pretty soon. 1.8. We're getting up to the 2-second mark already, and they haven't even turned down yet. We're hitting the third lap. It's somewhere towards the end of this one. There we go. Vettel's turned down, so we should start to see our cars now absolutely pull away from this Mercedes. There we go. Picking up almost a second. Are we going to be more than a second quicker after a lap here? Schumacher is catching back up with Leclerc here. We're going to turn down our tyres now. They're starting to get a little bit hot. So we're at 3 nearly 2 seconds off an entire lap there. We can see Delatras and Aitken in the pits. We do a 125.2 with Leclerc, 124.7 from Schumacher. Vettel does his lap in a 126.8. So that is over 2 seconds slower than Schumacher. The pace that Schumacher is sitting at the second. He's actually possibly going a little bit quicker than Leclerc still. So yeah, Leclerc is probably holding him up a little bit. As we know, Schumacher does have the best car set up for this track. But we're just going to let him race here. We'll keep going push mode. As we can see, Leclerc is easier on his fuel. We've done 4 laps so far, and as we can see, Leclerc's used 0.10 over what a lap of fuel does, and Schumacher's almost doubled that. He's used 0.2. So towards the end of the race, Leclerc's going to have a little bit more room to push for longer than Schumacher does, because Schumacher's going to have to start thinking about turning down a long time before we start thinking about doing that with Charles Leclerc. Leclerc can go for 8 laps on his soft tyre. He's going to have to go soft, soft. He could possibly come in for this one. We could do this tyre, then this tyre, and then this tyre. Since the weather's quite hot, the medium tyre would... If it was a little bit lower temperature, I would go for the medium, as we wouldn't be able to get the temperature into the tyres. And in those sort of conditions, it's sort of a little bit better to run the harder compound tyre, but we're going to stick with softs for this race. We're going to try and follow the same sort of pattern with what we're doing with the cars, just so we don't end up giving one driver an advantage over the other. Obviously, they're going to get a little advantage through the pit stops. As Schumacher goes through his tyres a little bit quicker, he can do 7 laps on a soft tyre, but he's got 3 full sets left, so whether that's going to work out for him, he's going to have to come into the pits a little bit earlier, which means once he comes into the pits and puts that new tyre on, it's going to be a little bit quicker than Leclerc is, because Leclerc is going to be on the worn tyres, whereas he's on a fresh set of soft tyres. Under normal conditions, if both cars had the same amount of fueling, is worth, I think it's 3/4 of a second is what the text file says, but we're seeing most of these cars come into the pit. Vettel has made actually a quick pit stop today. He's not having any reliability problems at this point. He's gone for a hard compound tyre, so I don't know where he shouldn't be able to make that stretch to the end of the race. I wouldn't feel. I don't think he can make that stretch to the end of the race. What can a hard tyre do? 11. So Schumacher couldn't do it in one stop, but could Leclerc do it in one stop? 11. He would have to get this tyre a little bit further if he wanted to do that. Should we try one stop with Leclerc? There's no chance that Schumacher can do that. These, I think the AI cars are a long way out from trying to do this on a one stop. No, we'll stick to two stops with everyone. But we're gonna get Schumacher into the pits on this lap. He's gonna get his fresh pair of softs on. We're still gonna keep pushing this fuel, and we're gonna turn down to medium when we need to, because we can recover 0.1 of the fuel tank through each lap that we do in the race. So if we get up to 0.6, we'll have to start turning down from lap 14 and so on. Conserving he doesn't need. We need a little bit of temperature in this tyre from Schumacher. Leclerc is going to try go back up to neutral until he gets into the pits. He's possibly going to get overtaken by Schumacher here. How far is the gap? 17 and reducing at the moment, so Schumacher's going to get the lead after this pit stop, I would feel. That seems to be the way things are going here. Vettel meanwhile off the lead is 8 seconds behind Schumacher, and took a long time for him to start putting the tyres on there, didn't it? But Schumacher's going to come through just in front. But obviously towards the end of the race, Leclerc's going to be able to push this fuel tank for a lot longer. He's only up to 0.2 already, whereas Schumacher's already up to 0.4. We're just going to have to keep an eye on that as we start to roll back on the engine, on the fuel mix. In a few laps or so, both these cars now comfortable. Leclerc possibly needs to push. Schumacher come back into conserve mode to try and get these back down into the optimal temperature. So we've just got down here. We've got Vettel third, we've got Verstappen fourth in the Red Bull. Hulkenberg doing pretty well. Still in the Force India, and he's on a quicker compound tyre. I don't know whether he's actually catching up here. And we've got Ricciardo back in 6th, Rosberg 7th in the Williams. Hamilton doing pretty well in this pretty poor McLaren car up in 8th. The other Williams have Bottas just behind him. Ericsson still needs to pit there. I still need to pit. Then we've got Raikkonen, Palmer, Junqueira, Grosjean, Verne, Neto, Alonso all the way back in 18th for the Renault, and Delatras, who hit Aitken, has already had to do 2 pit stops so far. But there's 3.5 seconds almost. It looks like Schumacher's starting to get away a little bit from Charles Leclerc here. Is he? It possibly depends on what part of the track they're on and what sort of traffic they're running into. The game doesn't seem to slow you down too much for back markers as much as it once did, because now some of them act like ghost cars. You can just run through the front of them. This gap is staying pretty steady here, and we're going to have to start thinking soon about trying to recover some of this fuel with Mick Schumacher. So we're going to go to medium, and Leclerc is going to have to start thinking about making his pit stop right about in a lap or so, because he had a pretty warm pair of soft tyres for his second pit stop, for his first pit stop should I say. He's going to have to start thinking about coming in to make that change pretty soon. Possibly this lap he's going to have to do it. He is starting to gain because he's able to push his tank of fuel a little bit more. So we're going to get him in. There's 9 laps, 8 laps remaining after that, which is just enough to get this soft tyre through to the end of the race. So that's pretty perfect there. Did I change everything I wanted to? Soft. Nothing there. And we'll go balanced. There's no point risking a fast one and making a mistake. So Leclerc's going to dive into the pits here. Schumacher's possibly got another 2 or 3 laps to go before he thinks about making his pit stop. Although we might want to do it when we feel that he's far enough ahead of Leclerc. We don't want. He possibly would want to come in before these soft tyres started getting a little bit too worse for wear. So as it is now, he could push these tyres and go through them pretty quickly. So we'll set Schumacher up for his this time. He's going 2 laps longer than Leclerc. And Leclerc can get through to the end of the race like this. It's going to keep going in push mode. It's 21, almost behind, 21.5 it's going to be when Schumacher hits the pits this time. Is that enough for Schumacher to get back out in first place here? Just going to have to see. And we're going to have to see, are these McLarens going to try to get through to the end of the race? It's not enough for him to catch us anyway. There goes Schumacher, who's exiting the pit. It's going to be close here. Here comes Leclerc. Right on the back of each other here, but Leclerc's going to have to turn down his engine as well. And go into neutral on the tyres, because it's starting to get a little bit hot. And we can keep pushing these tyres a little bit with Schumacher. It looks like Schumacher could have this race sewn up here. First and second, we've still got Vettel in third. Verstappen doing pretty well in fourth, Ricciardo fifth, Rosberg sixth, Bottas seventh, Hamilton eighth. Let's try and open this. Hulkenberg in ninth, Palmer rounding out the point scoring position in the Toro Rosso. It's going to be interesting to see how many of these try and go for the one stopper. There's a few laps left. These tyres are going to be pretty worn out pretty soon. Although the drop off for the hard tyre is 0%. You can run the hard tyres down to all the way to 1% before they start losing pretty much any performance. So you can get these hard tyres through to the end of the race. And Schumacher sets the fastest lap there. These tyres from Leclerc are pretty hot. Maybe we should start thinking about trying to cool these down. Let's run him in backup mode, see if we can... on that last lap with pretty warm tyres, he did a 123.8. So we're just going to do a little experiment here, see if we can cool these down. And just see how close we can get to a 123.8 using the same sort of... Even though we're in backup mode. Won't be able to tell this lap because the tyres are still pretty hot. It's going to be the 1 or 2 after this. He's got no real chance of catching Schumacher. So, still a 123.8 is what we're looking out for. Once we switch back up to medium. Although the tyres are slowly wearing out here. So what is it going to be? We need these tyres to drop to optimum temperature. I don't think we're going to get that low. And wait, because the track is pretty hot. 24 degrees. It's taking a while to get down here. But as you can see, as these tyres start to cool down, we start picking up more time. As the tyres get back into the optimum temperature, we're starting to pick up more time again. And on the next lap, even though we're in backup mode, we should be able to go a lot quicker now because we're starting to reach the optimum temperature. So let's just see what we can get on this final lap in backup mode. See if we can get somewhere close back to the 124s. But it might not work out because the tyres are getting to the point where they're on the lower thing. Yeah, the tyres are... We couldn't run that experiment too close there because the tyres are getting pretty worn. Have to try that out if we've got another leader. Another car in the lead. Or so far ahead and the race is already sewn up. But Schumacher wins the Barcelona Grand Prix there. Charles Leclerc second. Another good race from both these drivers. After 4 races, they've both now won 2 races each, so they will be tied up again at the top of the championship. Vettel has improved. Looks like Mercedes have gotten over their reliability problems. Maybe they'll start having more as they try and upgrade their engine again. Ricciardo 4th, Verstappen 5th, Hulkenberg 6th, Bottas 7th, Hamilton 8th. Palmer doing pretty well in 9th in the Toro Rosso. Giancarlo doing pretty well in the Mercedes. I wouldn't even though he's in a pretty strong Mercedes car, I wouldn't be expecting him to be in the points. This is Rosberg and the Williams who are pretty strong. And we got the Renault of Ericsson. Verne did pretty well off the back row of the grid in the manor. Norman Nato did pretty well to get up to 14th. So there we go. We're first. The quickest lap from Mick Schumacher was a 121.5. Vettel got close to it with a 121.6, but then again, at no point in the race did we really push the car in full-on attack mode. We didn't have to do that at any point in the race, so we could have possibly got to like 119 if we'd have pushed our car. Maybe we'll just have to do that in the race, have both cars just push for 1 lap at some point during the race just to see how faster we are under race conditions. Maybe that's something to think about for the next race. We'll just go all out and push the car to see how much quicker we are in a race. But there we go, 25 and 18 points again. Vettel picks up the 15 this time. We lapped all the way up to 7th place this time. And lapped Alonso twice. And from Louis Deletras we lapped them 3 times. So there we go, first and second, Schumacher, Leclerc, 86 points each. double what the next best car of Daniel Ricciardo has got. We should be double the points already in the Constructors' Championship, 172 to 71, already over 100 points better off. So everyone's still happy. We'll just see how much Schumacher is improving as regards to Leclerc. Seem to be improving at about the same rate, improving in different areas. Braking, Schumacher's improving a little bit quicker than Leclerc is. Guan Yu Zhu not improving that much, although he can only get to 3 stars. He's just here because he's cheap and because he is a Ferrari Academy driver. That's why he's in the seat. 3.1, that is because last time out on the sponsors, because we've gone from a 5-star sponsor to a 4-star sponsor. Last time out we went with Royal Challenge. Who did we have as a sponsor before? I can't remember who was the 5-star sponsor that we had in that slot, but we've lost about £300,000. But losing that £300,000, what we've saved, we've gone from paying, I'll just get through to where we actually look at that bit. We've gone from paying Sebastian Vettel almost, I think it was over £1 million, to paying Charles Leclerc £403,000. So we have saved 600,000. So even though we've dropped from 5 to 4, it's a net benefit at the moment of about £300,000. Obviously that would rely on what we get from these two, but neither of these we didn't manage to get 5-star sponsors in anyway, so we should be able to improve on this Oris one. Segafredo Zanetti, that one we should be about to keep the same. The big one is this Alliance one that pays 1.7 for finishing first in every race, and we get 3.2 times that for Germany, which is coming up in 2 races time, so we will be able to put a lot of money in the bank for that race. But anyway, that is where we're at. Still in first place. We've got the Russian Grand Prix in Sochi coming up. That is going to be a nice race again. It doesn't look like it's going to be raining. No, but we've got acceleration and the rear wing this time, which would mean that both cars are a little bit more equal, because Schumacher's got the better gearbox at the moment, Leclerc's got the better rear wing. So things should be a little bit more even between the cars. Obviously it depends track to track who's going to be better on each track, depending on what parts they've got in the car. But that is where we're going to leave today's episode. Thank you everybody for subscribing, commenting and liking these videos. But until next time, I will see you down the road in Russia for the next Grand Prix, and goodbye.